Welcome everyone to the Mail Fuzz TV News Podcast. I am Peter, and joining me once again, as always, is Connor.
Yes, I have survived.
Connor's got internet again, hence we're here on a weird day. We normally get the news at the weekend. We're recording this on a Monday night. It'll be out on Tuesday. So,
it was a really long 2.5 weeks without internet.
I'll bet. I go stir crazy with an hour without internet.
And I was like, okay, I've got a reasonable amount of mobile data, don't get me wrong. But I'm like, I don't want to burn through it all watching like a TV show or anything. Like even like YouTube videos. There's just too many of those on your phone. And oof.
For sure. But yeah, it's a TV podcast. We get together, we talk about pilots, renewals, cancellations, series orders, all that sort of stuff, and whatever else pops up. So we'll get into the business. Start on renewals and cancellations. Not a ton, but we do get a renewal for Shrinking, which is Apple TV Plus. Season 2 has been ordered, so that's the one with Harrison Ford's in it and Jason Segel.
Well, okay.
They've been pimping it out recently because it was just on, or maybe I think it may even still be airing its first season.
Yeah, but I've had no internet to see ads pimped out to me.
Fair enough. The other renewal we've got is Krapopolis, which has been renewed for season 3. Now this is notable because season 1's not even aired yet, and Fox have went ahead and renewed it.
I don't even know what this is.
Well, just because it's not aired yet. This is Dan Harmon's new animated series for Fox, which got delayed for airing because it's not coming till sometime in May. But they're so confident in it that they've ordered a third season, never been a second season. Krapopolis is set in mythical ancient Greece and tells the story of a dysfunctional family of humans, gods, and monsters as they tried their hand at running the world's first cities without trying to kill each other, that is. So, yeah.
Sounds like my sort of thing, although I'm not always a big fan of Dan Harmon's comedy stuff.
Would the names Richard Ayoade and Matt Berry in the voice cast give you
that would help?
Some hype?
I'm not gonna lie. Yeah,
well, there you go.
Yeah, that definitely does help.
Well, yeah. I'm not actually that thrilled about the setting, and I would definitely just prefer Dan Harmon do another, live action comedy because I love Community. But whatever. This is the thing. He's neck deep in the animated stuff these days. Ever since Rick and Morty, although I'm not sure how involved he is with that anymore, but he was definitely around at the start of it.
Yeah, he was like obviously co-creator, co-showrunner at the time. I don't know what position he technically still holds right now.
Yeah, but cool. So that's the renewals, and we got a few cancellations / endings. Just put them all under one umbrella. The big one by far for the last couple of weeks was Star Trek Discovery has been announced that it's ending with season 5. And they also pointed out that it's been delayed until 2024. It's not going to start until next year now. But they have wrapped filming this season, but they have noted that they're going to get some additional filming days to add some stuff into the finale, presumably because they didn't
make it more of an ending.
Yeah, so that means that the season wasn't written as the last season, but they are going to at least get a chance to go in and put a little bit of some epilogue stuff, or maybe reframe a few things at the end.
I could think of worse scenarios.
It's not ideal, but it's better than
I will say,
nothing.
Having not watched the last season as well, though, admittedly, most of the seasons of Discovery were pretty self-contained, barring the ending usually set up the next season. But for the most part, they were pretty much, hey, this is your season, and so I can't imagine it needs a lot of work at the end of this season, assuming it follows suit to make it the end of a show instead of a season.
That's probably true. By and large, yeah, you're right. There tends to be like 5 minutes at the end of the finale that is there just to set up whatever the next season is going to be. So all they'd have to do, presumably, is cut that and shoot another last 5 minutes.
Yeah, they'll probably go a little bit longer on the last episode, add on maybe 10-15 minutes of epilogue stuff instead.
I would expect so, and give it more of a rounded thing. But so I'm not so sure how surprising or not surprising this is. And on the one hand, I know they want to keep pumping out more Trek, but on the other, it's clearly an expensive show, and we're seeing nothing but reports that every streaming service is like, oh shit, this isn't as profitable as we thought it was. We have to cut costs somewhere.
I've seen some people saying, oh, well, its episode count compared to, other Trek shows is abysmal. But I don't think that's a fair comparison because those other shows were, 20 plus episodes a season in a different time.
Yeah, but even if this got 10 seasons, it was still going to pale in comparison to the episode count.
Exactly, and I don't think five seasons on a modern streaming service is not bad by any means.
Nah, I have no problem with 5 seasons as a run. I actually think it's kind of the happy medium amount of seasons where you're successful, but you don't necessarily go super long running. The only thing would be that, yeah, you would have hoped that they would notice their final season going in to just rate the entire thing as an ending. But this is, I mean, getting to like at least tack on some extra stuff at the end to wrap it up is better than nothing.
Just, oh yeah, by the way, we cancelled you.
Yeah. So, here's that. Also ending with season 4, which is airing soon, is Barry on HBO. Apparently there was some hints that this was going to be maybe the last season in some of the interviews and stuff, but it's officially confirmed. It seems to be perhaps more of a creative choice, much like Succession, also HBO that we talked about last time. So, fair enough.
Yeah, I would say, given its kind of cred that it has, I'll be surprised if it is not just a creative choice on that one.
Yeah, so that's fair enough. And then, not as much to mention in this last one, but Three Pines has been cancelled at Amazon after 1 season. Don't ask me what that is, because I cannot.
I'm not. I know the name, but which one was that? Amazon doesn't market their shit.
I think Alfred Molina was in it. I think that's all I know about it.
Oh, is that one? Okay.
I think that's that one. So, that's the renewals and cancellations. We got some premiere dates, and this is actually a bigger section than normal. Partly because a lot of these, like, I didn't know what they were, and they came with descriptions, so we've got some descriptions of some of these. Not all of them, but...
Okay.
So first up, we have American Born Chinese, which is coming on May 25th on Disney Plus. And this is notable because it stars Michelle Yeoh, Ke Huy Quan, and Stephanie Hsu, who are all in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
And 2 of them are Oscar winners now.
2 of them are Oscar winners now. American Born Chinese is based on the graphic novel the same name by Jinling Yang, and is the story of Jim Wang, an average teenager whom a new foreign student at school drags into a battle of Chinese mythical gods. So,
that sounds fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting it has all 3 of those actors from that movie in it. That's either a hell of a coup or an insane bit of luck, given the timing, depending on when they were cast and that stuff. I don't know, it's weird.
And like, was this just after that movie came out and someone from Disney went, do you guys want to do something together?
Yeah, wild stuff. Also, we get a premiere date for The Marvelous Miss Maisel for season 5, which is going to be April 14th, and this is the final season, which is not new news, so that was known. But
yeah, we spoke about that before, I think.
Yeah, so that's that. Amazon's Freevee has got a new docu-style comedy series called Jury Duty, and that's going to premiere on April 7th with 4 episodes. It's an 8-episode season, and they're getting... So it's like, you get 4 on the first day, and then there's 2 the following week, and then 2 the week after that. So it's in 3 batches.
Okay.
So this is starring James Marsden, which is notable. This is coming, like I said, on April 7th. I got a quick description here. Jury Duty chronicles the inner workings of an American jury trial through the eyes of one particular juror, Ronald Gladden. Gladden is unaware the entire case is fake. Everyone except him is an actor, including Marsden, and everything that happens inside the courtroom and out is carefully planned. So it's Truman Show, but you're in a courtroom.
Yeah. Okay. That's not like a terrible premise.
That's not. James Marsden doesn't strike me. I guess if you're going for this everyman bland guy, I suppose he kind of works in that role. But he's
kind of what it is, right? He's unassuming actor.
Yeah.
Because he's one of the actors, right? That's what it said.
Everyone except him, including Marsden, and everything that happens is carefully planned.
Which means Marsden's not the lead character. He's not that. I can't remember the name now already.
Yeah.
But he's not the lead. He's one of the actors.
He's one of the others. So he'll be like a lawyer or something.
Or the judge or something like that.
I don't know. That's interesting.
I don't know. As someone you're not meant to realize is an actor, he's probably... That's like the perfect role for him, because he is kind of just that bland and forgettable.
Yeah. Next up, we've got Florida Man, which is a limited series coming to Netflix on April 13th. And Florida Man, created by Donald Todd, when a struggling ex-cop is forced to return to his home state of Florida to find Philly mobster's runaway girlfriend, what should be a quick gig becomes a spiraling journey into buried family secrets and an increasingly futile attempt to do the right thing in a place where so much is wrong.
Didn't we already talk about this one?
I don't remember if we did.
Okay. Well, I guess that's at least one drink for the family secrets.
I don't know if it's his own family secrets, so that's debatable, but go for it. Why not?
I was also going to say there's the returning home one as well. Like, it's his home state. They play it as the returning home.
True. They say that. Yeah, okay. It definitely counts as one. I think
combined, they'll get one.
All right, and then the other thing I've got here is Citadel, which is coming to Amazon on April 28th with 2 episodes on the first week. This is the Russo's show, and it's got Richard Madden in it as well as Priyanka Chopra Jonas, or I may have butchered her middle name there, but maybe Chopra. But anyway, there's a big description for this one actually. Yeah,
not a middle name. That was her name before being married.
Okay, so it's like a double-barreled married name then.
Yeah.
There's no hyphen though, so I didn't necessarily read it that way, but sure.
Oh, fair enough.
Bye. So, 8 years ago, Citadel fell, the independent global spy agency tasked to uphold the safety and security of all people, was destroyed by operatives of Manticore, a powerful syndicate manipulating the world from the shadows. With Citadel's fall, elite agents Mason Kane and Nadia Sin had their memories wiped as they narrowly escaped with their lives. They've remained hidden ever since, building new lives under new identities, unaware of their past, until one night when Mason is tracked down by his former Citadel colleague, Bernard Orlick, played by Stanley Tucci, seemingly, who desperately needs his help to prevent Manticore from establishing a new world order. Mason seeks out his former partner Nadia, and the two spies embark on a mission that takes them around the world in an effort to stop Manticore, all while contending with a relationship built on secrets, lies, and a dangerous yet undying love.
God damn it.
Just got that personal bit in at the end.
They did. They just had to throw it in.
This is like This is like so extra to me, this description.
It's so generic and just like there, but also it might be amazing because of how awful it could be.
I feel like basically what they're saying is it's like Born Identity but with a couple, right? It's like Born Identity meets Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That's what I'm reading from this.
It'll either be really bland or terrible, but like entertainingly terrible. I don't know which one yet. Where was that again?
That's Amazon.
Okay, probably bland then.
April 28th, that's coming. And then the last one I've got is Fubar, which is coming to Netflix on May 25th, and this is the Arnold Schwarzenegger spy show. There is actually a short teaser trailer coming out, it's only like 20 seconds though. It's like some shots of him with a cigar, with a gun, in a car, and then he just says, "I'm back, baby," and then it says Fubar. So, yeah.
Arnie doing Arnie things.
Take of that what you will.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for his age. I think I got him that.
I don't think anyone was arguing that.
But that was my takeaway from the teaser. That's all I really saw and got from it. All right, so yeah, that's the premiere dates. So bunch of weird shows there.
I think that's the first time I've been forced to drink, not once, but multiple times during premiere dates.
All right, so that is some general things then. Punisher's coming back for Daredevil Born Again. John Bernthal is confirmed to return as Punisher.
Oh, okay.
Which I don't really feel much for. But this also came with the news that Foggy and Karen won't be back. At least they won't be back with those actors. I mean, the characters could be back, but...
See, the article I saw was very vague about this. It was less of, they haven't been told they're not coming back, but more they didn't get confirmed to be back alongside the others, so they're just assuming they're not. I don't know if there was anyone actually reached out after that. And
although they also confirmed that they're recasting Kingpin's wife, so they're also recasting a character.
Didn't she die?
I honestly do not remember.
Was that not like an entire motivation for like him?
I think she almost died, and then he made her go away and hide. I don't know. I don't remember. It's been years since I watched that show.
I remember him being very angry and protective about her.
So, yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, whatever. Some people are excited. Daredevil's going to have Punisher back. Fine. Happy days. I'm not going to watch it, so it's okay.
Me neither.
Next up, some turnabout at Dune, the Sisterhood. It's lost 2 key players.
Didn't it lose a showrunner not so long ago?
Well, it was maybe co-showrunners, but 1 left, and it was like, okay, that's not a big deal necessarily. But here, we have both a director change and a recasting. So, Chernobyl executive producer Johan Renck, who was signed on to direct the first 2 episodes, has exited the show. What's notable about this, though, is it mentioned it started shooting in November, and I'm like, wait, you started shooting in November, and the director of the first 2 episodes is now leaving, and you need a replacement?
I mean, they could have shot him out of order.
I mean, they could have done, but it still feels a bit weird to me.
It is a bit weird, yeah.
That's like, how much have you actually shot then in the last, like, 3 months? Well, not 5 months now. Jeez, we're in March, we're flying through the year.
Yeah, it's at least 4, depending on when in November it was, and when in March we are now.
So they're looking for a replacement, and they're also recasting someone. Shirley Henderson, who was tapped as one of the leads, she was going to play Tula Harkonnen, is going to be recast. That is in addition.
Recasting a lead as well. Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. And also the reminders here that the core showrunner left a couple of months ago as well. So, yeah, weird.
Not looking great.
It does feel like it's going through some turmoil, yeah. And with everything going over at Warner Brothers Discovery, I didn't put in the news them saying that, oh, the HBO and HBO Max is probably scaring people away, because I don't want to talk about it. I just don't want to talk about that.
Okay, I didn't even see that.
Because it's stupid. No, yes, the brand that is often associated with the highest quality of television. Yes, that's turning people away, you absolute tit. Anyway, so Sisterhood, some bumpy road.
You're telling me cross-media projects have troubles?
More on those later.
Oh, yeah.
Next up, there's a show that's not going forward anymore, and it felt high profile enough to mention. So this is The Devil in White City. Hulu was going to do this limited series, and they're not moving forward with it. Although ABC Signature, who is the company behind it, are looking for a new home for it. But this was the H.H. Holmes, World's Fair, Murder Castle stuff, all that.
Yeah.
And Keanu Reeves was going to star in it, but exited in October, and then director Todd Field left it soon after that. So
they're just like, screw it.
So there was a point here when they had a big actor, and obviously it's a fairly big, high-profile story to tell, but they've, again, went through some turmoil. Maybe if they find a new home, they can get some new creative and, a big name for it, maybe for the lead role. Admittedly, I don't know if it would be distracting having Keanu as either H.H. Holmes or Daniel H. Burnham, who's the visionary architect who did the World's Fair.
Distracting or amazing?
I don't know. I feel like Keanu has to play a role that's just for Keanu. Like him playing a real person from history, I think it's just not going to work.
I'm sorry, did you not see Dracula?
I did. Case in point.
It did work perfectly.
Also, that's not a person from history. Dracula is not a non-fiction story, Connor.
Yes, it is.
You're like one of these Americans who think Sherlock Holmes is based on a real person.
Obviously. Honestly, it was just the closest thing I could even think of that he played a real person, even though it's not.
He tried an English accent. He must have been based on someone real.
Look, Dracula was based on someone real.
I mean, very loosely.
That still counts.
That's like saying Psycho's based on Ed Gein. Yeah, parts of one part is based on what Ed Gein did.
All I'm saying is, I'm taking the win. It counts.
It does not count, but you comfort yourself with whatever you deem fit.
I will.
Next up, we got a bit of casting for the Penguin. This is a fun one. Salvatore Moroni, the character, is going to be played by Clancy Brown. So
the man can do no wrong. So
he's very good. He's even got a little bit of DC connective tissue because he was Lex in the animated Superman series.
He was, yeah.
Yeah, so he's even got a little bit of DC history. So that's cool. So it's an 8-episode show produced by Matt Reeves. Colin Farrell's back as the Penguin. This one has no creative changes, so it's going smoother than Sisterhood, seemingly. So
yep.
Good. And speaking of DC, I've got a little story that might tickle you here.
Oh, tickle you.
So Mark Guggenheim was doing some.
I did see this.
Right. Actually, I think it was his newsletter he said this in, but regardless, doesn't matter where it came from. He said this, right? He's a little bit miffed. Uncle Googie's a little bit upset. He's disappointed that James Gunn and Peter Safran haven't called him, they haven't included him, they haven't reached out to him in any way about their new DC universe. Here's some direct quotes. Not a job, mind you, a meeting, a conversation, a small recognition of what I tried to contribute to the grand tapestry that is the DC universe. I'd only spent 9 years toiling in that vineyard after all. This was on his Legal Dispatch newsletter. He continues, although working for DC had been creatively fulfilling, it involved a lot of adversity, challenges, and personal sacrifices, none of which seemed to have
Did he just personal and professional that?
He did, yes.
God damn it.
None of which
seemed got personal and professional by Uncle Googie.
None of which seemed to have accrued any professional benefit. Even said professional. Simply put, the Arrowverse hasn't led to any other gigs, so it feels, at least on a career level, that I really wasted my time. I was going to say, to me, this tells me that James Gunn and Peter Safran have made at least one good choice since they've taken over.
Things on what he actually said there, because so he spent all that just for career advancement, which okay, fine, but I don't think that having you achieved however many shows with multiple crossovers. You coordinated a lot of shit. Let's credit where it's due. Quality aside, it was coordinated relatively well over the years.
Quality was definitely put aside, yes.
It was. I think that's something that, him as a producer could probably be fairly proud of in that regard. Right?
I mean, he can still put it on his resume to get other jobs, but there's this sense of entitlement that because he's loosely connected to DC as a thing, that he should be consulted on this new big movie universe that James Gunn and Co. is trying to do.
It came out, I don't know if it was through this or if I just saw it on Twitter because this was here. He spent a lot of his own money on Crisis.
Oh, really?
It turns out CW were just not fronting up the budget that they required, so he put something like $10,000+ in to to get where it needed to be. Just to get it to happen. Otherwise, they were going to pull the plug on it completely. And
oh, okay,
fair enough. Yeah,
10,000 seems like a low amount in the grand scheme of a TV budget, though.
It is, but for one person.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it's a lot to a person, but what does that actually get in terms of a budget? A few extra costumes, I
don't know, but again, you've got to remember this is just over. Those 4 episodes that it was. Most of the costuming was already there in place, things like that, because they had all the things lying around.
Sure.
Various shows.
The budget, even on a CW show, I'm sure a budget per episode is still hundreds of thousands.
Maybe. I wonder if this was specifically just for if not
effects. Millions. It may literally still be a couple of million per episode. That wouldn't surprise me.
It would surprise me if it was that high.
Maybe on CW, but I do think there's other networks where that would be a normal budget.
I don't know. I think that's still.
I'll put it this way: back when they were making Friends, it was very publicized that in the last couple of seasons that all 6 of the lead actors were making $1 million per episode. So that means the budget of an episode of Friends towards the end was $6 million plus per episode.
Yes, but that's because all of that, 95% of that was cast fees.
Well, I know, but I'm saying if a sitcom can balloon to that per episode because of the cast and the success of the show, I'm just saying. Shooting this show with action scenes, even if they are all in warehouses,
No, I agree. Yeah, and maybe I've got the figure wrong here. I'm just
oh sure, yeah.
I saw.
I'm just 10,000 is a drop in the bucket for even a small budget movie or TV show.
It is. If it's something that he's out of your own pocket, I imagine that's a reasonable amount because he's not. There was no extra investment. That wasn't an investment or anything like that. That was just additional.
That's
like charity almost.
I don't know. That would maybe cover catering for a few weeks. Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I'm just throwing out joke guesses, really. But I mean, that's great, but it still doesn't entitle him to anything.
No, it doesn't. No, it definitely doesn't.
Especially since the whole point of this new regime is that it's a new regime. Like, was he thinking that because it's not like Snyder anymore? Like, I'll get consulted. Like James Gunn and that's going to want to talk to me.
Like, I'm not saying they should have reached out because obviously that's completely on them. I can see why maybe they would, based off of the fact that he's already got like a multiverse established. He's familiar enough with that maybe there's a reason they might want to just see what ideas he has.
Yeah,
but also I can also understand them being like, no, we want a fresh start. And also CW's cancelling everything anyway. And
also like you. Let's bring the quality back into the conversation. It's entirely possible that James Gunn and Peter Safran have watched some or all of those shows and went, we're aiming much higher than this. I don't think we want to take anything from this.
Absolutely. And also it's possible they saw, hey, he's, like I said, he's done it for 9 years. Maybe he's just exhausted all his ideas and they're like, we don't think he's got any fresh ideas to contribute.
Yeah. So, yeah, I just, it amused me. And then one last general story before we get to the new comedies and stuff. Important stuff, right? This is one of the most important stories of the week. I know you're going to be deeply invested in this. Damian Lewis is coming back for season 7 of Billions.
God damn it.
He's going to appear in 6 of the 12 episodes. He was like the lead character for the first 5 seasons, and he had to leave for, I think, family reasons.
You were saying his name and like coming back. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. What else is he coming back to that I'm going to remotely give a shit about?
I know his face, but yeah, he's the lead guy in Billions. He's coming back.
Billions.
Hey, Billions is like Yellowstone now. We have to talk about any Billions news that pops up.
I'm almost certain Yellowstone is better quality than Billions.
I think that's a fair assumption.
Having not seen like a single like second of either of them, not seen nothing, not a trailer, I'm willing to bet Yellowstone is better.
I've seen only the stills in these news articles when I'm getting the news, and I would just, based on those stills, Yellowstone looks like a higher production show. But
yeah,
that's based on very little, I admit. So angry comments from the billionaires, which is the Billions fandom,
oh yeah, obviously.
You got Trekkies, you got billionaires.
That's not confusing.
Anyway, let's get into the comedies and the new comedies we've got to talk about this week. ABC has got a pilot order for Drop Off, which is listed as a working title, but that's what it's called. It's a comedy based on a British series which was known as Motherland. Have you heard of that?
Can't say I have.
No. Ellie Kemper from Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt in The Office is going to star and executive produce, so she's back on. Oh, actually, I thought she's never on ABC. I was going to say she's back on NBC, but it's not NBC, it's ABC. So ignore that little aside. So Karan Soni, who worked on the Deadpool movies, is also set to lead in the project, from writer Julianne Schmalinsky, Sharon Horgan, and Celia Mountford. A bunch of foreign last names there, because they all just have like they're all like almost a normal name from my like perspective, but they all just have like an extra like consonant somewhere, and I'm like, okay, these are like,
yeah, you have to think about it.
Yeah, so like Smolenski sounds like Finnish or something, but I could be wrong. I'm just stabbing in the dark. But anyway, so they're all working on this. Drop Off centers on Julia, a working mum for whom nothing is working, so she goes looking for her village. With the help of new friends Calvin and Liz, Julia discovers she might just succeed at balancing work and parenting from time to time. This is a comedy for anybody who has dropped their kids off at school, breathed a sigh of relief, and then realized it's Sunday. That last part wasn't as funny as they thought it was, but
not at all.
Yeah, so it's a single mom comedy with Ellie Kemper.
It sounds very generic, but Ellie Kemper is solid. She can we know she can lead a sitcom.
Yeah, and I feel this is a different character for her because this is like a character with responsibility, which I feel like is Kimmy Schmidt and her character in The Office are like zany characters who are kind of
It's more of a mature
Yeah.
character than what we're used to seeing her doing.
Which is
I
maybe
guess
just like an age thing.
getting
Maybe
older.
maybe now she's like, I don't know what age she is, but maybe she's in the late 30s, maybe early 40s now, and she's like, this is a role for me now. I'm a mum now.
Yeah, probably.
So,
I think
okay.
she's probably the only interesting part about that story.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Next up, ABC again. They've taken a single camera comedy called Overtime. They've bought it from David E. Tabert, and it's about a retired NBA player, with Warren Littlefield producing, who's worked on both The Handmaid's Tale and Fargo, which is two shows far removed from a sitcom, I would say. But yeah. So we also have Courtney Lilly from Blackish and Grownish and Negotiations to also executive produce. I don't think I've ever read in an article before that someone's in talks to executive produce.
Usually they just throw the money at it and jobs are good.
Yeah. So anyway, in Overtime, a celebrated NBA star retires and returns home. Returns home to play positions he's managed to avoid throughout his 12-year career: father, husband, neighbor, friend. He's been pampered his entire adult life and followed the perfect game plan to great success. Now away from the spotlight and left to his own devices, he's facing his toughest opponent yet: himself.
I hate everything about that.
So yeah, it's an NBA player who's kind of like retired or at least winding down and going home and being more normal. There you go. I mean, if he's like an entitled douchebag because he's used to being like pampered, like I can see where the comedy can come from for sure.
Yeah, I assume that's where it's coming from. But
all right, okay.
I'm having to learn responsibilities for the first time.
Next up, this is just kind of an update on one that we talked about not too long ago, but this is the Mole Agent, or at least that's what the original thing it's based on was called. They don't have a title for this yet, but this is the Ted Danson starring one that's by Mike Schur, who did The Good Place. This is the old guy becomes like a mole at a retirement home.
Oh yeah,
that's that show. Yeah, so that's actually officially been picked up with an 8-episode straight to series order at Netflix. So that's the news.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of Netflix, they've also greenlit an untitled comedy series from executive producer Erin Foster. And it's going to star Kristen Bell, funnily enough, just because a Good Place was referenced in the last story. Here's another actor from that show. Also executive produced by Stephen Levitan. It comes from 20th Century... It comes from 20th Television. That's what... like the words are just missing. It's so frustrating.
I'd say one day you'll get used to it, but you won't.
I don't think so, because... It's because even, I put on like an old movie, it's like 20th Century Fox, it's like dun 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 dun. I still see the century. It's still there.
Yeah. And Disney just gave us a copyright strike.
Oh, was my singing that good, was it?
I think it's probably that is recognizable enough as a piece of music that you got close enough.
I'll take that compliment. Anyway, so yeah, this is an untitled show so far, but it's been in negotiations for the past couple of months. It's loosely based on Foster's real life experiences. It centers on an unlikely relationship between an irreverent, outspoken, and agnostic woman and an unconventional rabbi. So,
okay.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
Not much to go on, but cool. We got a couple of animated series to talk about as well before we go to the dramas.
Sign me up.
First up, Fox is officially moving forward with Bedrock, which is the sort of sequel / spin-off. I'd say it's more of a sequel series to the Flintstones, but aimed at adults. So this is obviously going into their, because Fox have Family Guy and Simpsons and all these things.
Are they adapting the Mark Russell Flintstones comic?
I know.
Because if they're not, they should be.
No, but there are some interesting details to this. First of all, Elizabeth Banks is spearheading this. She's executive producing, and she's going to voice the lead, which is Pebbles, the now grown-up daughter of the Flintstones.
Okay, definitely sequel territory,
Yeah.
and Elizabeth Banks is great.
Yeah, she's in her early 20s, I think. We'll get to the description in a second. but it scored a pilot presentation after it was first brought up 2 years ago. The cast also includes Stephen Root as Fred. He's a fun comedy actor. He's good. Amy Sedaris as Wilma, Nicole Byer as Betty, Joe Trujillo as Barney. That's Boyles from Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh yeah, okay.
Or Broyles, I should say. Boyles or Broyles? I don't know else to watch that. And then Manny Jacinto as Bam Bam. So yeah, it's the whole family and the neighbors again. It's just, but the focus is going to be 20-somethings Pebbles.
The kid, who were the kids?
Yeah, primetime animated adult comedy series continuing the story of the Stone Age family. Bedrock catches up with the Flintstones' family 2 decades later, with Fred on the brink of retirement and a 20-something Pebbles embarking on her own career. As the Stone Age gives way to a shiny and enlightened new Bronze Age, the residents of Bedrock will find this evolution harder than a swing from Bam Bam's club. So that's actually quite funny saying it's going to the Bronze Age. That's actually quite a funny detail on that.
It is, yeah. Credit where it's due.
So it's a big name behind it, and Banks is getting very prolific with all our projects, so why not? Yes.
Yeah, making some money on them.
And then the other animated show, which was good news, this one, is that Batman Caped Crusader has been picked up at Amazon for 2 seasons.
Yeah, we knew it was definitely going to get picked up somewhere, because I think they said they already had at least 1 season in the bag, right?
I don't know if I remember that, but they were definitely looking for a new home. This was something they were wanting to do. This is the one that's produced by J.J. Abrams, Matt Reeves, and Bruce Timm. It was sort of let go from HBO Max, but they were looking for a new home. They've found it in Amazon, which I think is a good place for it, to be honest. It's got a straight-to-series order for 2 seasons. And yeah, this was one of 6 different projects that Warner Bros. Discovery just cut at the same time.
Yeah, this is the one this has got the Brubaker writing on it, I think, right?
It did at the time. It doesn't mention his name in this article, but it did originally have his name attached to it.
I would assume, until told otherwise, that things haven't really changed on that side.
I would assume, especially if he already had at least written the first season, perhaps.
It sounds like they'd written it all, because they had, he was talking about it in his newsletter for a long time with writers' room going on.
So here's hoping, assuming it's good, which I hope it is, and think it very well could be, that he is back for more as well. So yeah, no, it's just cool. I mean, I guess the only sad part, not that Kevin Conroy was ever confirmed for this, but it is kind of a bittersweet that he definitely can't be in this now, because obviously he passed away. So, and his last project is that awful looking Suicide Squad game, unfortunately.
Oh no, don't tell me that.
Yep, he's voicing Batman in it. He already recorded all of his lines.
Damn it.
And it looks like absolute shit. Anywho, that is good news though, that this lives. So that's Batman Caped Crusader, very sort of old school looking. I mean, they used an image that was very reminiscent of the original Batman from Detective Comics 27 and all the articles for this. Obviously, that's not an image from the actual show though, because there's no images from the actual show to show yet. So we don't know what it's going to look like, but we know it's going to be old school and gothic.
Yeah. They've been using that image the entire time we've been talking about it. I think it was like a mock-up piece for this specifically, which means it's indicative of the style we can expect, at least.
So, no, that's cool. That's cool. So, let's go on to all the other stuff then, all the new dramas and whatnot. And you know how, almost every episode this year, we've had a story about Amazon wanting to have a universe?
Oh, they got another one. I'm aware.
Yeah, they had Tomb Raider universe. They had, I don't remember what the other ones were, but that was, there was more than that. So Creed, the Creedverse might be born. Creed 3, of course, has just come out, and it's doing well. It's actually making more money, at least up front, than the first 2 entries did. So it's successful.
I've heard very good things about it from various people who are not necessarily always into the same sort of stuff.
I've heard good things from most people, and then one sort of lukewarm opinion.
I'm not gonna lie, it's all the anime comparisons which have got me the most interested in it. I don't know if you've heard those.
Yeah, I've heard that Michael B. Jordan, who directed it, and it's his directorial debut as well, starring in it, had anime influences for how he shot the fight scenes, I believe. Or
he's kind of a big anime nerd. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I have become aware of that over the past few months because he keeps bringing it up.
Yeah, there's a lot of very specific references I've seen made that in that film, which has me kind of excited for that.
So, yeah, so obviously Creed is MGM, and Amazon own MGM, and they're apparently been meeting with Michael B. Jordan about expanding Creed into more projects. Obviously, there's a possibility of a Creed 4. That's kind of just assumed that that's probably going to happen at this point. But the details are, they're still exploring ideas. But apparently, the things that are up in the air that might happen is possibly a Creed anime series. So that may be a thing. There's ideas for a live action TV show, which is the most relevant thing to this particular show.
Anime is TV.
And also, percolating is the word they use here, is a potential project centering on Adonis Creed's daughter Amara, who is in the third movie, played by deaf actress Mila Davis Kent. And that might also be a project. Now, it doesn't specify if that would be a TV project or a movie project. I suspect probably TV. And then they also add on at the end that already in development is a potential spin-off called Drago, about obviously what's his face? I'm forgetting the actor's name. Dolph Lundgren. Thank you. Dolph Lundgren and his character's son, who were both in Creed 2. And although that was meant to be a movie, and that still is a movie project, it's not a TV project. But yeah,
that makes sense.
Everything's blossoming. We have to have like 5 ongoing different projects for every IP at the same time now these days, apparently.
Yeah, this one's a little. I think it's slightly more forgivable than some, in that at least this is a franchise that's already had a lot of sequels, right? You've got what, 6 Rocky movies and now 3 Creed movies. It's already on 9 movies.
Yeah, but I do always appreciate more, like, I'm fine with there being like a spin-off after the fact, right? So if you finish a thing and then you move on to the next thing. Everything now, though, it's like we have to have like 10 things in development at the same time, and then hope that we can have like 4 of them on the air at the same time. It's just everything's too much of everything,
I definitely don't disagree with that feeling. I think, for me at least, it's slightly more palatable when it's a property that's already kind of established and has a lot of things under its belt, as opposed to even something like Dune, which I love that last movie. But the fact that they immediately, even before that movie was out, they were like, right, we're going to have the movies, we're going to have TV shows, we're going to have 6 things.
We're going to have cartoons, we're going to have serials, we're going to have comics, we're going to have...
They went all in with no history. Obviously, they've got the history of it being a book and, having its own audience in that, right? But no history in the medium, specifically in this version. Whereas, at least with these, you got 6 Rocky films, you got 3 Creed movies already. They're looking at that going, okay, well, we've got things we can do with that. At least it doesn't feel like it's coming out of nowhere.
Yeah, the movies, though, like, they are quite spread out. Like, it's like 1976 to 2023. So it's 9 movies, but it's 9 movies spread out at quite a vast amount of time.
Yeah.
And this is the sort of thing, something I joked about with Star Trek is that, obviously Star Trek had many shows, right, before it came back. It had, 5 total shows? A live action, one animated show and 5 live action shows.
Yeah. And
almost like within a couple of years of coming back, it almost like doubled the number because they had so many projects going at the same time, I
mean, and it's something that is worth noting, that having they had 3 on at the same time, give or take, I think, overlapping more or less.
Yeah, at least back to back, yeah.
Yeah, and it's probably that is a large part of what killed the franchise for a while. There's the audience fatigue of just have it all at once. I'm starting. I know, obviously, we have personally been kind of relatively.
Oh, you mean back in the day? No, they never had more than 2 at the same time.
Okay, but they were like right after. They kind of they all overlapped though. Those last 3, didn't they?
Oh yeah, like basically, Deep Space Nine was never on its own. Deep Space Nine was like Next Gen for 2 seasons, and then Voyager for the rest of its show, and then Voyager obviously lasted a couple of seasons after that was done.
Yeah, and then did Enterprise overlap with Voyager?
No, Enterprise came a couple of years later, I think.
It come just after. Okay.
Yeah, I think there was actually a little gap between Voyager and Enterprise.
Okay, but that was what I was saying. There was those 3 overlapping that kind of causes fatigue, and we're seeing it with things now that we've been pretty apathetic on like Marvel stuff for a while. But especially after the release of Ant-Man, I'm seeing a lot of people who were kind of still very into Marvel stuff, kind of being like, okay, maybe they should have taken a break after.
Even
Endgame,
Kevin Feige's saying that they slow down their TV projects. So yeah,
yeah, exactly. It's like it is getting to a point where it's a lot. Maybe take it down a notch. Not just Marvel, like that kind of is. For
but
all of these
everyone's trying to do it,
projects.
and I suppose we're not really at the point yet where most of them like. I feel like most attempts at trying to do like these vast like not even universes, but just vast like IP expansions of like having multiple things. Most of them seem to die before they actually happen. We've not really got to the point where tons of them are actually succeeding of like, just existing, never mind being good.
Yeah,
So
there's a whole list at the graveyard of them.
yeah, so we'll see how many of these ones that Amazon are trying to do, even like because if only one of them gets through, it won't feel that bad. If there's just one shared universe thing happening, then I can kind of live with that. But if all like 5 of the ones that are trying to like have developed all end up happening, it's going to feel so exhausting and so tiring.
Obviously, they're gonna have this one. They're gonna have Tomb Raider. I would arguably say The Boys because they've got a spin-off.
Oh yeah, they're kind of
concurrently.
Joe, that doesn't feel that bad though, is because that the spin-off's coming after 3 seasons, and it's like, okay, we're expanding into something else because this is a proven quantity at this point and it's doing really well. I mean,
they didn't greenlight that at the same time as the main show.
Absolutely. I mean, hell, 3 seasons is the exact same amount of seasons that Buffy had before Angel started. So I mean,
yeah.
I mean, obviously, if they say there's a 3rd boys show and then a 4th boys show, and they're all going to be starting before the original show's not finished, I'll start to complain. That's the problem that the Walking Dead's kind of turned into, is that it's like, here's 6 shows. But anywho, so yeah, Creed's possibly expanded into more TV stuff. Not a lot of details. It's quite early on in all the development of these things, but it was worth mentioning because they're like, hey, let's do a bunch of this now.
I think at least one of them will happen.
Yeah. All right, next up, a new adaptation of Day of the Triffids is in development. Amazon Studios is fast tracking it. Johan Rennick, Emmy winner for Chernobyl, who I think was the same name that left the Sisterhood earlier on, is attached to direct and executive produce this limited series. Don Murphy and Susan Montford are executive producing for Angry Films. So, in Day of the Triffids, after most people in the world are blinded by a meteor shower, Triffids, tall, venomous, carnivorous plants start killing the rest. The story centers on Bill Mason, a biologist who specializes in Triffids. He leads survivors in their fight against the killer plants, and at some point rescues a young, sighted girl and travels with her for several days. I wonder why this has been greenlit all of a sudden.
Can't possibly imagine why. Definitely not reminiscent of anything at all that may have not just ended.
Yeah, I didn't read the description because there's a movie from the 50s, which I'm sure I'll see at some point, but I've not seen it yet. So I hadn't read the description yet, and as I was reading that, I was like, okay, plants are killing. That's a little bit like fungus, and then it got to the end about him like traveling with a girl. Oh, okay, all right. So Last of Us exists, and therefore people are looking at what other things they can do that are similar. Okay. Yeah. That said, though, I'm not against making a new version of this. Like, so it sounds. I mean, plant monsters sounds interesting from a visual perspective, at least.
Hey, it's got to be different to mushroom monsters.
Yeah. I mean, cool. By all means, I hope it's fun. Next up, Ed Berger, who directed, co-wrote, and produced All Quiet on the Western Front, which just won an Oscar. The foreign language Oscar or international Oscar, what they're calling it these days, is going to direct and executive produce a show called Helltown, an 8-episode crime thriller that's in development at Amazon Studios. Amazon are developing tons of stuff this week, apparently. From Mohammed El Masri, who worked on Severance, which is good, and also Robert Downey Jr.'s company, Team Downey. So Oscar Isaac's in talks to star and executive produce, so that's kind of a big deal. And it's based on the book by the same name by Casey Sherman. So, written by El Masri, who serves as executive producer and showrunner. Helltown centers on Kurt Vonnegut. Sorry?
Vonnegut?
I've got a feeling some of that's silent. I just don't know what part because I'm not used to it. So, focuses on Kurt, before he was a round Arthur and cultural lightning rod. In 1969, Kurt was a struggling novelist and car salesman living life with his wife and 5 children in Cape Cod. When 2 women disappear and are later discovered murdered underneath the sand dunes on the outskirts of Provincetown, Kurt becomes obsessed with and embroiled in the chilling hunt for a serial killer and forms a dangerous bond with the prime suspect.
Of course he does.
So yeah,
it's very TV, isn't it?
Yeah. I think, you know what, the whole hunting down a serial killer like is just so overdone in TV that it's almost impossible until I see like some fancy direction to be remotely inspired by it.
You mean kind of like what we had in Mindhunter?
Yeah, Mindhunter was great.
Yeah.
Next up, Paramount Plus is developing Vice City, which is a working title, a new original series from Lionsgate Television, Paramount Television Studios, and Curtis 50 Cent Jackson's G-Unit Film and Television. The project is an original idea from writers and executive producers Darnell Mateer, who worked on Transformers Rise of the Beast. Well, I don't know if that's any good, Jack, it's not out, but and Josh Peters, also Transformers Rise of the Beast. So maybe that was their break moment into the industry to start doing other projects. With Chad Stahelski, who's worked on the John Wick franchise, serving as executive producer and director. So he's like the co-director of John Wick. So Vice City follows 3 friends and former soldiers who return to their home city of Miami in the mid-80s after being dishonorably discharged from the military for their involvement in the Iran-Contra scandal. Disgraced, displaced, and forgotten by the country they served, and with no good job prospects, the 3 friends partner with a mysterious Colombian immigrant, uniting their financial needs and criminal ambitions to form a heist crew. Fueled by the need for American green, they traverse a violent and dangerous path in the pursuit of the American dream.
How did that sound so generic?
Yeah. See, when it said mid-80s, I was hoping it was going to be like talking about like, you know, something a bit more stylish, maybe.
Yeah, have a bit of style to it, but
yeah,
that could have been any CBS show.
Yeah, I don't know if it makes me think of CBS. It makes me think more of I never watched Narcos, but that's what it makes me think of, just in concept.
Okay, that's fair, but the blandness of the description felt like a basic network description.
Sure. Peacock is developing 8 flights. Sorry, not flights. 8 fights. I just remembered who this is about. I'm like, yeah, it's not flights. 8 fights. Excellence 8 fights. A scripted 8-part event series about boxing great Muhammad Ali, based on the definitive biography Ali, A Life by Jonathan Eig. E-I-G? Eig?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, the project comes from Oscar-winning Black Klansman co-writer Kevin Wilmot, Morgan Freeman, and Laurie McCreary's Revelations Entertainment. So, written by Wilmot, the series chronicles 8 distinct and defining moments in Ali's iconic life. Each episode will be framed by one of his fights, but the essence of the episode, what it's really about, is the internal fight, the drama outside the ring. It will explore the struggle of going in on the heart and mind of one of the most consequential and controversial figures of the 20th century. Framing each episode around one of his fights is an interesting idea. I could see them like always starting and ending with the fight and kind of like cutting to like what the story's really about.
It's a solid way of doing it. It kind of reminds me of, remember that Steve Jobs film that did like it was just like 3 sequences?
I never saw it, but I remember
it was all like 3 speeches that he was giving. It was kind of the events around that. So a similar idea to that, but stretched out over a TV show as opposed to fitting it into a movie. That was a perfectly fine movie, but the structure of it really worked in its benefit. So I can see that working here, of giving it like each episode will really feel like, oh no, it's that episode.
Yeah. Which I think one of my big problems with biopics tends to be just like kind of the weird structure, because they have to fit the person's life, but they don't necessarily fit like the structure of a story. So you get like a kind of, I don't know, I feel like kind of a disconnect with the pacing or whatever. This sounds like an interesting way of like getting around that and making it more like spotlight moments.
It gives it a good excuse to jump to specific moments, and obviously they can still fudge the timeline a little bit. Like, you know, they can mention some events that, you know, around those fights, you know, like before and after. Just fudge them enough that it'll work in an episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can see that with potential.
All right, David Chase is working with FX on his next TV project. So basically, they're not really saying much about what it is, like the plot and all
Another
that's
one of these.
under
Yeah,
wraps.
okay.
But David Chase, of course, worked on The Sopranos. He's the creator of that. And he's working with writer-director Hannah Fidel, who worked on Pam and Tommy, which obviously got a lot of buzz last year. So it's based on a previously unproduced script by Chase and will feature a contemporary take by Fidel, who will direct the pilot. So, it's a big name at FX. Potential. It seemed big enough name-wise to mention. Obviously, there's not a lot to talk about yet, but
yeah.
So that's that. MRC has made a deal to develop Pornsak Pichasotti's Eisner Award-winning graphic novel. I probably butchered your names there, so apologies.
Is this The Good Asian that you're trying to talk?
The Good Asian, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you know how to pronounce his name?
I might do if I looked at it.
But anyway, yeah. So this is an adaptation of the graphic novel The Good Asian.
James... graphic novel.
Well, it says graphic novel here.
I know. I'm just specifying because we always like.
I know. Yeah, it's probably a comic book. James Wad, Michael Clear, and Bob Hackett are producing for Atomic Monster. The Good Asian follows Edson Hark, a skilled but complicated Chinese-American detective on the trail of a killer in 1936 Chinatown. The series adaptation is a Chinatown noir following the first generation of Americans to come of age under immigration ban, the Chinese, as they rise against the system of violence, oppression, and corruption in their community to build a better future. So,
I'd say the comic is amazing.
oh,
it's one of the best things I've read in the last 5 years.
I obviously you've got the hunting down the killer part, which obviously is the fun part, but then you've also got like this specific setting, this first generation of immigrants. I can see what
it nails its noir tone from right from the first issue.
Yeah, I can see there being a lot in there. So that's The Good Asian. No network or anything like that yet, but it's in development, so
yeah,
it should come back. It's not often I bring up Tubi.
I forget they exist most of the time.
But Tubi's begun principal photography on a dark western thriller called The Thicket, based on Joe R. Lonsdale's novel of the same name, starring and produced by Game of Thrones alum Peter Dinklage. They're shooting in Canada right now, so it's a passion project for Dinklage. The Thicket also stars Juliette Lewis and Esme Creed Mills, who is Hannah from the Hannah TV show.
Okay.
So, yeah, I didn't realize Tubi was making original shows, but apparently they are.
I didn't realize Tubi still existed.
Oh no, Tubi has all the weird B movies that you can't find anywhere else.
Fair enough.
So it's worth it for that, but and it's free, so it is worth it regardless. But so set at the turn of the century, The Thicket follows an innocent young man, Jack, who goes on an epic quest to rescue his sister Lula after she's been kidnapped by the violent killer Cutthroat Bill and her gang. To save her, Jack enlists the help of a crafty bounty hunter named Reginald Jones, a grave-digging alcoholic son of an ex-slave, and a street-smart prostitute. The gang tracks Cutthroat Bill into the deadly no-man's land known as the Big Thicket, a place where blood and chaos reign.
Okay.
There's a dramatic description, I'll give it that.
Yeah, and with strong direction, I can see that being.
Yeah, Dinklage is the bounty hunter, by the way, out of all those characters.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting.
Yeah, it's an interesting cast. I'll say that much. And Juliette Lewis being the villain makes sense. I can see her as the villain. So that's cool. Which I. Oh no, we've got 2 more stories left. So this is the penultimate story. Amazon Studios has partnered with the Tornante Company to develop The Better Liar, a drama series based on the book of the same name by Tannen Jones. Daisy Ridley is set to star and executive produce. So it's going to be written and executive produced by Rael Tucker, who worked on True Blood. Not the most exciting thing to tell me, but fair enough.
He was probably just a staff writer.
Yeah. In The Better Liar, when a woman hires a lookalike in an effort to conceal her sister's death and claim their shared inheritance, her deception exposes a web of dangerous secrets. So not a lot to go on.
Really generic, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty generic sounding, yeah. Came back from one more Amazon show, though.
I mean, Who knows? We'll wait till we hear more on that one to make a decision.
I think so. And then finally, we have a Netflix show again. So no regular networks. They all took the last couple of weeks off, apparently, from making announcements. But Netflix has given a formal limited series order to Zero Day, a conspiracy thriller from Eric Newman from The Watcher and Narcos, Noah Oppenheim from Jackie and The Thing About Pam, and Pulitzer Prize winning journalist and author Michael S. Schmidt. And notably, this is going to have Robert De Niro starring in it and executive producing. It's his first TV role as a regular character. It's a limited series. Leslie Linka Glatter from Homeland, Mad Men, and Love and Death will direct all episodes and executive produce. 6 episodes. Zero Day asks the question on everyone's mind: how do we find truth in a world in crisis, one seemingly being torn apart by forces outside our control? And in an era rife with conspiracy theory and subterfuge, how much of those forces are products of our own doing, perhaps even of our own imagining? That is the most just intentionally obtuse description.
Yeah, there was nothing.
Yes, it said nothing.
Literally nothing.
Yes. So, what's this show actually going to be? What's it going to feel like? I have no idea. Because I
could not tell you anything about this show.
But hey, Robert De Niro's in it, so that's a big deal, I guess.
Yeah. Kind of weird he's not done any TV before.
Yeah, but even just earlier, we've got that Arnold show. Arnold's never been a regular character on a TV show, and now he's doing a TV. I feel like times have changed. Now these old-time actors are all having a go at it.
Basically what happened is TV studios started throwing money at them.
Aye. Despite the fact that they're all losing money because the streaming services aren't as profitable as they thought they were.
But the thing is, they think if they throw more money at the problem to get bigger names, more people will come and watch it, and therefore they will make more money. They won't.
It's genius. Yeah, it's genius.
Yeah.
That'll definitely work.
How can it fail?
But there you go. That's the news for the week. The last 2 weeks, really. So, there you go. That's what it is. And I do think there's some stuff from today, being Monday, in there. So, I'll see how much news there is if we're going to record one for the weekend. We might not. We may just leave it till next week, depending. But I'll have a look come Friday or so and see if there's enough there to bother. But yeah, so hopefully you're happy the TV news is back. Me and Connor are planning to record another Star Trek this week. So hopefully that'll be up for patrons later this week too. So just if you're waiting for things to be coming back, that's the game plan. So look out for that. Yeah. Otherwise though, as far as TV stuff goes, Last of Us just finished. My review of that just went up at the time of recording. Myself and Tara have been reviewing the new Quantum Leap. Still, it's been a little rough going recently, at least on my side of things. Shockingly though, we're also reviewing Picard, and it wasn't that great for the first 3 episodes, but episode 4 was probably the first good episode of the entire show. So we're kind of still in a state of shock, and we'll see how episode 5 is this coming week. But there you go. Those are the reviews that are all there to go check out. But otherwise, that'll just about do it. So thank you very much for joining us. You can support the show and the channel by liking, subscribing, dinging the bell for notifications, and commenting when you see fit. And of course, you can support us financially by going to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV and supporting us on a monthly basis. Or you can do a one-time super thanks on YouTube if that's more your thing. But any and all help is appreciated and helps keep all the shows coming and whatnot. So thank you very much. That's the TV news. Thank you very much for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?